Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss some of the things Kemi Badenoch has said in an interview podcast with a Conservative journalist who's worked for The Telegraph and GB News, Christopher Hope, with one of the more eyebrows raising comments being, she grew up middle class, you know, no kidding, yeah, I mean, you were privately educated, but became working class. Did you? And how did she achieve this change of social class? By getting a job at MacDonalds part-time as a teenager. And although it seems funny, there's quite a serious side to this disconnected attitude. But first, if you'd like to be kept informed of political commentary, please hit the subscribe button. Now, I should point out, at the time of me recording this, her interview on the GB News YouTube channel, it's not even quite got 14,000 views after nearly 24 hours. Even my Saturday live shows, which are a lot longer, do better than that. And if I interviewed a senior MP of any party, it would do way, way better than that, even given the depressed political audience that I discussed in my video yesterday evening. Maybe James Cleverly would like to get in touch and we can put it to the test. I suspect he won't. But never mind that. It's an interview with someone vying to become leader of the Conservative Party, and therefore someone aiming to lead our government in the future. So, you know, worth paying attention to. Only listening to senior Conservatives these days seems very similar to how I imagine script meetings on Monty Python probably worked. It's almost a virtue to not align thinking with reality. The part of the interview which is attracting the most attention is the claim to have, yes, been brought up middle class. Of course, she was brought up middle class, father a doctor, mother a lecturer, but then became working class when she got a job at McDonald's at 16. It's like she's a less self-aware person than the subject of the pulp song Common People, isn't it? Now, I've said plenty of times that the concept these days of working class is a little bit confusing for me. It used to be simple enough, like you were born into a family where the income came from low-paid manual work, and you know what? You would grow up and end up getting low-paid manual work yourself, follow generation after generation. That's how it worked. These days doesn't actually follow. My granddad was a miner. My dad began working in a British Well machine workshop. I went off to university and became an art teacher. And there's nothing unusual in that either. So these days, the only remnants of the class system is that there are still a lot of people who are unfairly denied opportunities. And there are also some who are unfairly handed out opportunity after opportunity, no matter how many times they mess up. But it no longer strictly follows the old patterns. Like Mick Lynch, for example. Is he working class? He would say he is. But he doesn't do manual work and he is highly paid. So he's basing this on the fact, well, you know, he grew up in a much more impoverished workhold. Okay. At which point a millionaire can be working class and a pauper can be upper class. So, you know, in terms of practical use, it doesn't make quite so much sense. But what is absolutely definitely not the case is that Kemi Badenoch has ever been working class. It's not even like she was poor whilst working at McDonald's. We're not talking about a period of her life where her parents' finances basically collapsed and they were living in a council estate and she had to get a job at McDonald's to make the household budget meet. She just got a part-time job like most teenagers. Maybe she was comparing herself to friends, like maybe she had friends whose parents just gave them an allowance which amounted to a part-time wage, but without having to work for it. And she thought, why do I have to work? For goodness sake. It's like, I'm poor. You know, did she think she was working class because she was working for a wage? Was that all there was to it? Well, I'm working, therefore I must be working class. Is that how she understood the term? And presumably still understands it, because she's not saying this is what she thought when she was 16. She's saying this is what she thinks still now. That at that age, she was working class because she had a job at McDonald's, a minimum wage job. Yeah. Or did she think she became working class because she was part of a group of workers, some of whom will have been working class? Either way, it's not great for a senior politician to be thinking like this. And you think, well, why does it matter? Why not just ridicule it and move on? Well, because although I say this concept of social class is a lot more blurred now than it used to be, not because it's now easy for anyone in one class to move upwards. It's not. As I say, there's millions of people who are held back artificially. But there are lots and lots of people who can move out of it. But if you get something like this so badly wrong, it suggests you understand little of the social fabric of society, which means you're simply not going to understand why some people still have barriers to social mobility artificially dumped onto them, you'll believe that these barriers don't exist, which is people being lazy. Like, she's thinking to herself, well, I got this low-paid job, so that made me working class. But then I graduated and got into a well-paid job and eventually got into a nicely paid consultancy career. And then I became a senior politician. Well, if a working class gal like me can do that, well, so can anyone else. All chimes with this attitude you get from far too many Conservatives that there are no barriers to social mobility because they think, well, I had these barriers, I overcame them. Which in reality, no, you didn't. You didn't actually have these barriers. And most people never recognise like the luck factor in their lives. Like, even take Badenoch, for example. So she was, in a lucrative career before becoming a politician anyway. But she may not have even been an MP, but for a lucky failure. She failed in 2017 and she failed upwards, which does happen. She stood to be the Conservative candidate in a seat that Labour won in the 2017 election, comfortably as well. She wanted to be the candidate, but she wasn't selected as the candidate. So she actually failed to be selected as the candidate. However, after that failure, she was then selected as the candidate for the safe Tory seat she ended up winning. Now, had she been better, had she been more skillful at persuading the other constituency party members to select her as their candidate, she would then have lost the election in 2017. Now, she may or may not have wangled a better seat to contest in 2019. We won't know that. But at that point in 2017, she failed and as a result became an MP. I think there was quite a series of freak events which led to me becoming a full-time YouTuber, some of which I'm conscious of. There'll be others which I may not be. And the same can apply to senior politicians as well. Like, even the ones who genuinely were working class and did face barriers, they came through them. So by definition, nobody in a position to form policy, no one who's reached the upper echelons of politics, no matter what barriers they had or thought they had on the way, they never faced any unassailable barriers by definition. Some will have had a steeper gradient than others. So the least we need from senior politicians is to at least understand there are people out there who do face unassailable barriers. They need help. And they haven't lived their lives. These politicians cannot have walked in their footsteps, really. But they should at least be aware of the existence of these people and keep them in mind. And it's quite obvious that Kemi Badenoch's belief that being paid the minimum wage for a bit of pocket money makes you working class means she isn't really aware of those trapped in a life with no discernible windows of opportunity, which is a terrible mindset for a politician to have. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe as well. And if you'd like to support the channel further, you can join for memberships. Thanks for watching. And until next time, I'll see you later.